On this episode of Texas Backyard Barbecue and More, I'm going to bring you my wife's favorite rib, my ancho marmalade rib. Coming your way on this episode, let's get smoking. So what we have here is just a couple of racks of baby back ribs. You can find them at your local supermarket. The back of it though, because some people don't mind it being on there. Me, myself, I don't like that mouthful when I bite into it and get a piece of that. So we're going to take it off of these and we'll get them seasoned up here in just a second. So you just get you a paper towel and you're going to try to grab onto this membrane here, and you got to have a paper towel because it's kind of slick and it'll slide out of your fingers, but you're going to just pull that off the back just like that right there. And get as much of it as you can. This stuff is really slick and hard to get a hold of, so just reach in there, grab it with that paper towel and just rip it loose. And you can see it puts up a fight. There you go. And you get a good section of it here, you can rip it off. You're going to take your yellow mustard. We use it as a binder, and a binder is just what we have on the ribs to hold the spices to the ribs, because otherwise they tend to just kind of flake off. So we're going to take just a little bit of mustard. Doesn't take a whole lot. Start with the back side, because nobody really looks at the back side. You're going to want the front side for your gorgeous presentation. So just take a little bit of that and just work it in with your hand. Just work it in. Try to keep one hand clean. Just keep on working until you get this side pretty well covered in the yellow mustard. And then what you're going to do is you're going to take your honey hog from Meat Church. This is really good for pork, really good flavor. So we're going to take that, we're going to sprinkle it liberally over the back side of this rib. There's a shaker side and a pour side. I like the pour side because I can control a little better, but if you go up high here and just kind of, it gives you better, you'll get better coverage if you go a little higher. So just keep sprinkling that so you get that rib liberally covered. If there's some chunks in there, you want to just smack them down a little bit. So you want to cover both racks of ribs. Just sprinkling liberally. Put your hand on the back side of it to kind of keep it in place. You can pat it in. Basically, we're going to do the same thing on the other side. When you pull your ribs off, this is the side everyone's going to see. No one's going to be looking at the back side of the rib. So that's why you always want to do the back side first. So once again, we're going to take our yellow mustard. We're just going to swirl a line of it down it. Take your hand and work that mustard in a little bit. And remember, if you put too much mustard on there, too much binder, it'll affect your bark. Your bark won't be near as pronounced. So it doesn't take a whole lot. And the funny thing about this mustard is you don't even taste it when you're eating it. So it's just a binder. Once again, we're going to cover it liberally with our mix here, our honey hog from Meat Church. And run your hand around the back side of it so you can make sure you get the edges coated. And this is why you want to keep one clean hand. You don't want to contaminate your bottle when you're pouring this. Take your hand and pat it in. That way you make sure it adheres. And typically you'd like to let this set for a couple of hours so that it has a chance to really adhere to the meat. All right, so we took this in for a couple of hours, let it set in the fridge to get these spices where they would really permeate this meat. And now we're ready to put it on the smoker. All right, we're gonna make sure that our temperature on our smokers reached about 250 degrees. Once we get to that point, we're gonna put the ribs on there and let them go for about 3 hours. Ribs are in the smoker. We'll see you in about 3 hours. Our ribs have been on the smoker for about 3 hours, so it's time to pull them and wrap them. These right here are perfect. They got just the right amount of bend. So we're going to set them down here. We're going to put a little bit of our honey down on the bottom. We're going to take a little of our brown sugar, sprinkle it down over that honey. We're going to take our butter, put a little bit of that butter down the bottom as well. We're going to do the same thing on both sides. Just kind of evenly space them out. We're going to lay these ribs right down in the middle of those. And we're going to do the same thing for the top. We're going to get our honey on there. Going to sprinkle our brown sugar across the top of it. Going to throw some butter on top as well. We're going to wrap these dudes up. Just going to roll them up in here, make sure they're good and sealed up. Roll those ends around. Make sure you don't cut through your aluminum foil with the bone, because you don't want all that stuff, you don't want all of it leaking out. And then we're going to put them back on the smoker. We're going to do the same thing with the second rack of ribs. We'll see you when we finish up. The primary part of our ancho marmalade ribs is the ancho pepper, and you can find these dried ancho peppers in just about any supermarket. What we're going to do is we're going to cut the stems off of these, de-seed them a little bit. We're going to put them in a pot of chicken stock and let them boil for about 15 or 20 minutes until they get good and soft and rehydrated. Then we're going to blend them up. So we're just cutting the stems off of these, taking these seeds and just dumping them out. And you don't have to completely clean them out, but you can get most of the seeds out of there. We're going to do this to about 4, 5, 6 of these. This is going to give these ribs a good smoky, kind of a sweet flavor along with that marmalade that goes really well together. So we got about 6 of those in the pot. We're going to add about half the pot full of chicken stock. There's not a set measurement, just one enough to cover the anchos. So we're just going to pour the chicken stock in till we cover these things up. For me, it takes about a whole container of chicken stock to cover the peppers. So we're going to put that over the heat, bring it to a boil, let it boil for about 20 minutes. At this time, we're going to season this ancho chicken stock mixture up. We want to make sure we get some good flavor in here. So we're going to add just a little bit of garlic and a little bit of salt. We're going to do about a teaspoon and a half of garlic and about a teaspoon of salt. We'll make sure we stir it up real good. We still got about, I don't know, 4 or 5 minutes on this, and we're going to let this simmer for just a little bit longer. We'll be back and see it. All right, these anchos have come to a boil. They've been steeping for about 15, 20 minutes. It's about time to take them off. And what we're going to do is we're going to blend them up in our little handy dandy blender. Going to put them in here. All right. And we're going to take a little of this juice out of here as well, just so we get the consistency we want with our sauce. We're going to take a ladle or two and just put in there. Should be good to go. We're going to take a little bit of our orange marmalade here. When I say a little bit, we're going to do a healthy amount because we want to make sure we get that orange flavor in there. We'll put the lid on it there, put it back on the little blender. And you might want to grab the top of it with a rag because it is a little warm. And we're just going to pulse it. Just want to blend it and make sure all of it blends real nice and smooth. What we're going to do next is we're going to put this sauce back in our pot, bring it back up to temp, back up to a boil, so we can thicken it up. We're going to stir it just a little bit. As you can tell here, there's no lumps in it, perfectly smooth. This is going to make for a great sauce for our ribs. So let's get these ribs out of the smoker. They've been on the smoker for about another 2 hours. Let's get a good look and see what these things look like. Perfection. Look at that. We're going to move these over to our charbroil grill. We've done a fine job smoking it over here, but we want to get a good crust on it, so we're going to put it where we can get some high heat on it as we put our sauce on it and let it set. We're going to put our ancho sauce on there pretty liberally. Just dab it on there, get it all over. We've had the ancho marmalade glaze sitting on these ribs for about 15 minutes. As you can see, these ribs look delicious. They look like they are ready to go. So we're going to go ahead and pull them. We're going to get them ready to chow down on. And here you have it, our ancho marmalade ribs. Another great weekend recipe that your family is going to enjoy. And I promise you they will. And speaking of enjoying them, we're fixing to do that right now. So until next time, this is BigSkinny. We'll see you.